how to write a literature review. This video is for you. A paragraph writes about studies standing on one side of the literature, and another paragraph writes about the studies standing on another side of the literature. Maybe the findings of these two groups of studies are different or even conflicting. Based on the difference and conflict between these two groups of studies, a research gap is established. Then the study comes in to bridge the research gap between these two groups of studies. I use this paper to introduce an example how to follow and how to establish this strategy and this structure for writing literature review. The title of this paper is Impact of Technology and Economic Complexity on Environmental Pollution and Economic Growth in Developing and Developed Countries. It has been published in the Journal of Environmental Science and Pollution Research in 2023. In this paper, the literature review uses three main paragraphs. The first main paragraph introduces the findings of the studies standing on side 1. The second one is about the studies standing on side 2, and the final paragraph highlights the research gap between the two sides. In the first paragraph about the studies, the group of the studies on side 1, it writes that many studies confirm the negative relationship between economic complexity and environmental pollution. So this paragraph totally writes about that group of studies that finds that economic complexity and environmental pollution have a negative relationship. So the other sentences are supporting sentences for the first topic sentence about the negative relationship. And then the second paragraph writes about the group of studies on side 2. For example, it writes, many researchers affirm the positive relationship of economic complexity and environmental pollution. So this paragraph introduces another group of studies with completely different findings. To signalize such a difference, the paper can start the paragraph with some signaling words like however, nonetheless, in contrast, and then use some supporting sentences to extend the paragraph for the topic sentence. And finally, based on the difference and the conflict between the findings of studies in group 1 and in group 2, the literature review writes and highlights the research gap between the two sides. For example, it writes, the previous studies show a research gap whether economic complexity and environmental pollution have a positive or negative relationship. And then the literature review can write that this study aims to fill in this research gap. This study aims to bridge this research gap. And there are two more points that are minor. The first point is about how to write sentences in literature review. Literature review usually writes starting with the name of the researchers, starting with the title of the studies. For example, this sentence writes, firstly, Khan and Goskar in 2017 claimed that. It is the writing style of a literature review. And another point is that the literature review should end with a research gap and highlights that this study tries to fill in this research gap.